Before we start off with some of the great topics that we will dive into tonight, um, shocking news. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne passed away. Malcolm Jamal Warner, better known for Theo on the Cosbys, passed away at the age of 54. And Hulk Hogan passed away. I got to be honest with you, I was shocked, especially with the Hulk Hogan one, because I didn't get the news until I got off on my lunch break. And then I was reading on Instagram, Hulk Hogan passed away. And I'm like, is this for real? What is going on? But Champ sent it to me. I mean, the group chat, they sent me all that stuff. Look, I know on the pod we've talked about Hulk Hogan and we've criticized them, and rightfully so. Even though I have criticized Hulk Hogan, still at the same time, I don't wish bad, I don't wish ill will upon anyone. And I certainly don't wish death upon anyone. Hulk Hogan, as far as wrestling is concerned, you can't talk about wrestling without Hulk Hogan. You just can't. Unfortunately for Hulk Hogan, when you think of him as the human being, I mean, of course, you're going to think about the racist things that he has thought and said. You're going to think of the lies that people have called him out on. But like I said before, man, two things could be true. You can respect the art, not the person. And rightfully so, Undertaker, Triple H, Mick Foley, others paid their tributes to the late great Hulk Hogan. I will respect and admire for what Hulk Hogan has meant to wrestling during the 80s and the 90s, especially when he went to WCW, becoming a heel. As you mentioned before, champ, the NWO from 96, 98, they were the show of wrestling at that time. But it's really hard when you think of Hulk Hogan as the human being, some of the things that he has done and said. But I believe two things could be true. You can respect the art. You don't have to necessarily respect the human being. I can understand how people feel a certain way about Hulk Hogan as a person, as a human being, and that is fair to say. After all, he brought that on himself. But I'm not going to disregard what he has meant to wrestling and what he has meant to media. So I will give Hulk Hogan his flowers, even though I can condemn him for the things he said and done as a human being. And I think his contemporaries applauding, respecting him, I think that's the best way to go. And there may be a lot more I'm going to say, and I will say it is shocking to me. But like I said, man, I don't wish bad, I don't wish ill will upon anyone. No matter how I condemn a person, no matter how much I may not necessarily like that person, I damn sure don't wish death. And I don't wish ill will. So prayers and condolences go to Hulk Hogan's family, as well as Ozzy Osbourne's family, Malcolm Jamal Warner's family. Champ, the floor is yours.
Let's not forget about world famous jazz artist Chuck Mangoni. Let's not
Yes.
forget about him as well. Chuck Mangoni was one of the more influential artists in jazz history. So let's not forget about Mr. Mangoni.
Thank you
My
for
father.
reminding me of that. I apologize.
Oh no, no need to apologize. I mean, it's just, you know, everything slips out of mind. It's been so much around. It's so much death around us, all of us as a whole. It's kind of hard to keep up with it. Chuck Montgomery.
And not trying to cut you off, but also if I could throw one more in there, one of the great American kind of folklore country singers of all time, Connie Francis. She passed away as well. I think she was like 84. So it's just it's hit pretty hard as of late.
Yes. Number one, it seems like the 80s just died this week. Because when you think about the 80s, you think about the Cosby Show. You can't mention the 80s without Ozzy Osbourne. You can't mention the 80s without Chuck Mangoni. You can't mention the 80s. You damn sure can't mention the 80s without Hulk Hogan. So it's like a big portion of the 80s died. Luckily for Ozzy Osbourne, we was able to see him on the farewell tour. We got to see him on the farewell tour. Michael Jamal Warner, he was always vocal about his art. He was always vocal about his love for jazz, love for music, his activism. And people always relate to him with the Cosby Show. But let's not forget him and one of my favorite comedians. They actually had a show together on UPM, Malcolm and Eddie.
Oh
So
yeah, the Eddie Griffin. Yeah,
yeah, Eddie Griffin, one of the all-time greats in comedy, man. So let's not forget about that. Chuck Mangoni, Feels So Good. You can't forget about that one. When you think about jazz, you got to put that song on the top of your list. Feel So Good was always a part of my childhood. In fact, shout out to my father. He used to play it in the morning as we get older. He said, he used to always tell me when he put on that song, man, you can't go to work feeling rowdy. You got to go to work feeling calm and collective. So he used to play Chuck Mangoni in order to get that done. Hulk Hogan. Look, despite there is a such thing as tainted legacy, and we've seen it before. We've seen tainted legacies before. We saw it with Superfly Jimmy Snuka and the findings that he had unalived someone. We saw it with, the late great O.J. Simpson. Remember, me and you both did a segment on that, live on this show after he passed. There is a such thing as tainted legacy when people pass away. Regardless of how great he was as a basketball player and how great he was on and off the court with philanthropy and everything, the first thing that people like to bring up is Colorado when it comes to Kobe. So there is and that's the first thing a lot of people brought up during his death, unfortunately. Look, the kid in me, look, the thing is this. People can say whatever they would like, but the thing is, I remember how I first started watching wrestling, and that was because of Hulk. And just because somebody did something horrible and was blatantly hateful, that does not mean you have to follow in suit. Have y'all not learned? Have we not learned anything from Martin Luther King? So, I mean, you don't have to attack hate with hate. That's not going to go anywhere. I mean, you don't have to attack hate with hate. Send thoughts and prayers. And guess what? You don't have to let hate win just because someone had hate in their heart. Regardless, that's not the way to go. It's not the way to go. Send your thoughts and prayers and condolences. Hope, that, the Lord will have mercy upon him and move on. The thing is this, everybody wants to talk that talk until it's them. See, there's an old saying that I love to say all the time. Everybody, the person who doesn't want to give mercy be the first one to beg for some. Everybody wants to cast aspersions and everything like that. But the minute it's them, they want all the grace and mercy in the world. You see. So the thing is, you can separate the art from the person. The thing is this, you can separate the art from the person. You can say Hulk Hogan was the inspiration for a lot of guys and young women. Hulk Hogan was the reason that a lot of our favorite superstars got into wrestling. Hell, The Rock even said so. Edge, Christian, a little bit of everybody. Matter of fact, I remember Edge saying that he wanted to cry when Hulk Hogan got beat at WrestleMania 6 by the Ultimate Warrior when it was in his hometown in Toronto, Canada.
right.
You can separate the thing is we're very, very the thing is about this Hulk Hogan situation is this. We're so and I'm talking about everybody. We're so selective when we try to separate the art from the person. We're very, very selective when we do that. And that's what bothers me about society these days. We'll say that about famous singers, we'll say that about famous songwriters or whoever. But the thing is, whenever it's someone who doesn't fit that description or doesn't fit that is outside of the narrative, I will say, then we're quick to cast aspersion. Let's not forget this. He was responsible for a lot of us loving wrestling.
Yes.
He was the primary reason why we watch wrestling to this day. Wrestling is a global phenomenon because of Hulk Hogan. And the thing is, you can be respectful and you cannot be hateful in your mannerisms. You don't have to spew hate just because a person is passed away. Whatever happened to respecting the dead? Whatever happened to being respectful? Whatever happened to saying, hey, let's remember good things about people when they pass away? Hey, we all know that he had his issues. We all know the things we said. Heck, we heard him. But the thing is, you don't have to take that route. See, you don't have to take that route. You don't have to take that route. Just because somebody else went down that path and went down that dark road doesn't mean you have to go down there with them. Because where's that going to lead you to? Like I said, we so quick to talk that talk until it's us. Until it's us in particular. A lot of times I will say this. Look, let's call a spade a spade. There's been a lot of famous people who come to find out when they pass away had a lot of demons. And you cannot mention one thing in their career without mentioning some controversy behind it. Let's just keep it real. Like I said, when you think about Superfly Jimmy Snuka, you think about the unaliving of someone, the fact that it was a quote unquote alleged cover up for it. You think about O.J. Simpson. You think about 1994. You think, depending on who you ask, you think about our famous basketball players. When you think about the late great Chris Benoit, you think about the tragedy that happened in Atlanta. There's been a lot of tragedies, but at the same time, you don't have to take that path of hate that person took. Be respectful. It's nothing wrong with having your opinion. It's nothing wrong with having your opinions. Have your opinions, discuss them amongst yourself, but to come out and, like I said, nobody's no longer able to defend themselves at this point. They're passed away. I mean, they can't say in words, they can't say I'm sorry, they can't apologize, they can't do any of that. So guess what? You don't have to take that path of hate. You don't. Just live and let live. And like I said, you can't take away, you can dislike, you can love, you can like Hulk Hogan, but dislike Terry Bollea.
Two things can be true.
Exactly. You can like the childhood that you had, because thing is, look, Hulk Hogan, when you talk to us as millennials, you talk about him in the 80s and you talk about him in the 90s. And when you think about that, it's so ironic that his language was that towards African American people. When you look at his outfits in the 90s,
It
all of
was
that.
more. It was more to like the black culture, especially with the NWO.
Yes, when you have the graffiti on you, go back. I encourage whoever's watching, look at this. When you look at the outfits that Hulk Hogan used to wear, go back and put that outfits, all the graffiti, the airbrush, put that in a picture of BBD, Bev Biv DeVoe, side by side. The only difference is Hogan's colors is darker. All of that was African American and our culture. So it's so ironic about you having things to say about, let's just keep it a spade, us, but the NWO was basically everything hip hop for life. He openly admitted was copied When they used to say NWO for life, they basically copied that from West Side Connection. When they put up the Too Sweet sign, that was, the Turkish Wolf, Turkish Mob. When they used to say Too Sweet, that was hip hop. When they used to have house shows, do you know what they used to play? The Dope Dealer, the Gangster, and the Pimp. The West Side Connection song. They used to play that during house shows when the NWO used to come out. And when you pay attention to Scott Hall, he used to come out on the Fugees, Ready or Not. So the thing is this: a lot of superstars who claim to hate black folk, let's just keep it real, a lot of that stuff is copied. If you really listen to, the thing is, there was a running joke about Dusty Rhodes, because if you listen to Thunderbolt Patterson and you listen to Dusty Rhodes, he sounds exactly like Thunderbolt Patterson. So the thing is this: two things can be true. You can hate Terry Bollea, but guess what? Acknowledge, hey, that was the reason I used to watch wrestling. I never forget, first action figure I ever got from wrestling was I never forget, I was in pre-K. And I never forget, we had Secret Santa going on, and I picked up out that box and said, Miss Strictly, what I got? She said, oh man, Stephon got Lex Luger and Hulk Hogan. So that it was fun, it was funny. So hey, like I said, man, Hulk Hogan was the reason I watched wrestling. The reason I was lifting weights, him and Arnold Schwarzenegger was, I want to lift weights and have the 24-inch pythons. If you go back and look at my Instagram photos, you'll see me when I was actually in shape. But those guys influenced me to want to lift weights. Them and a lot of other superstars in the WWE. Those are the guys who influence you to lift weights, because you want to look like the wrestling superstar. That's what you want to look like. You saw him on Gremlins. You saw him in, the Muppets, a lot of other stuff, man. But like I said, you can enjoy those memories of your childhood and you can dislike the person. But the thing is, just be respectful. Like I said, the thing is, if you died today, someone got unalived you today, you passed away today, would you want somebody digging up the dirt that you did and putting it out there?
Exactly. And that's the problem that I have with some in today's generation, the younger generation. Look, if you want to condemn or criticize Hulk Hogan as far as a human being, champ, that's fine. I mean, we cannot ignore Hulk Hogan's past. But when someone passes away, look, if you can't say something nice about that individual, then don't say nothing.
Yeah.
That's the best way to handle it. And you said it, you hit it right on the nail, champ. If someone passed away, if one of us passed away, we would be remembered for all the good things instead of all the bad things. And we don't want our legacy to be remembered by just horrible incidents. So
yeah. Hell, I mean, I got into a fight when I was in the Army. Do you think I want somebody bringing that up you think I want somebody bringing it up when I pass away? Specialist Pryor got into a fight when he was in the Army. Have y'all forgotten about that? Yeah, I got into a fight. So what? I know that's not equivalent to what he did, but that is an example that people will bring it up. I mean, you don't have to. We know already. That's already been discussed. Let them rest. They're already, put it this way, not to get religious, but he's already facing his judge. Make sure when you face the judge that you're ready. We'll put it that way, because the judge ain't gonna ask you about what he did. He's gonna be asking you about what you did. So he's already facing his judge. So that's how come we always say down south, am I right, BRF? Respect the dead, because the judge ain't asking him about your sins, and he's not gonna ask the judge about yours. So yeah, you got to be careful with that. If you don't want the judge to be asking you about yours, then don't speak on nobody else. So be careful, because you're gonna see that judge before it's all said and done. He's facing his judge already. He's facing the judge already. Just make sure when you face the judge that you're ready. And if you can't read between the lines on what I'm saying, shame on you.
Not to mention, as you always mention, champ, you always use the quote from Ice-T, freedom of speech. But be careful.
Hold on. Hey, I gotta go be daddy for a little bit, so I'm gonna have to sign out for a little bit. But y'all keep going. I will be back.
No problem, BRF. No problem. But champ, as you always put it, to quote Ice-T, freedom of speech. But be
Well, watch
careful
what
what you say.
you say. And the thing is, like
Because otherwise there's consequences. And again, people going to bring up your past. And when that resurface, okay, how you going to defend? How you going to justify that?
yeah. And the thing is, he's not here to defend himself anymore. He's not here to apologize. He and probably wasn't going to, and that doesn't matter. Like I said, he's facing his judge. That's like when we always say down south, don't speak on the dead. They're facing their judge. You just make sure you're ready when you face yours. Because the thing is this: if every little thing was brought out about each and every last one of us, a lot of us be in damn trouble. Let's just keep it all the way a buck. A lot of us would be in trouble. Hell, I know I would. So the thing is, guess what? Be respectful. Keep your mouth closed. Everything ain't got to be discussed on a high level for you to be heard. Like I stated, I even said that in my TikTok video. I'm not finna slander anybody that's no longer able to defend themselves. They're passed away. They're facing the judge, and that's just what that is. But at the same time, I'm going to acknowledge, guess what? When I was a kid, I was a fan. When I was when he faced Goldberg, my eyes were glued to the screen. When he faced the Ultimate Warrior, my eyes was glued to the screen. When he faced Andre the Giant, my eyes was glued to the screen. When he faced Sting, my eyes was glued to the screen. Ric Flair, my eyes was glued to the screen. So
The
guess what?
Rock,
The Rock, I mean Triple H, The Undertaker. Both times when he
Shawn Michaels,
yes, both times when he faced the Undertaker. And let's just keep it a buck. If the Undertaker, who knew everybody knew he had problems with it, everybody knew he had problems with him. If he can show class and dignity and say, "Hey, thank you for what you did," then guess what? Who are we to sit around here and say anything about anybody? That's the Undertaker. The running joke whenever that video comes on about Hogan getting tombstone, everybody always say the same thing. Oh, you got me, brother. So that's the thing. And if people can come out and say, look, people who don't even care for you, because yes, you can best believe there's not a lot of guys who care for you. You don't have everybody's not your friend in life. Everybody's not your friend. But if they could come out, show class, show dignity, and I'm like I stated in my videos before, I'm not the class police. But the thing is, show some decorum, show some respect. Just hush. We all know what he did. Guess what? He's facing the judge. Make sure you're ready when you face yours.
BRF. What are your thoughts?
Um, as far as Hulk Hogan goes, the way I feel about him, and I was actually at work today, and I was at work today, and my direct supervisor actually asked me how I felt about Hulk Hogan dying. And I'm gonna kind of give y'all a similar answer that I gave her, and I love her to death because I work at Pro Services at the at the Lowe's down here in my hometown. I work in Pro Services. I'm a sales specialist, and well, when I'm not talking sports, because this is the career I ultimately want to fully pursue. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, PSP. You know, two things can be true. Like, you cannot write the history of professional wrestling without the golden era of wrestling, which was led by Hulk Hogan. And I've heard some people say, well, they could have got anybody. You know, Hulk Hogan was just, in the right place at the right time. And I agree with that to an extent, but I also look at Hulk Hogan and and the Vince McMahon mindset as far as who he wanted to be the face of his company. Nobody else fitted like Hulk Hogan. The closest was Ultimate Warrior, but even still, like, Hulk Hogan was just that all American, white meat, baby face, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, the mic skills, the charisma. Was he the greatest wrestler? Absolutely not. Well, the American style, anyway. If you watch his All Japan, New Japan stuff, the man will surprise you. If you watch his All Japan and New Japan stuff, he was actually decent. Not the greatest, but he was decent. He carried himself with guys like Muda, back with Muda and other guys like that back in Japan. But I explained it like two things can be true. Like you can't write the history of pro wrestling without Hulk Hogan. You know, some people are saying, "Oh, we should erase Hulk Hogan from the annals of professional wrestling." You can't do that no matter how hard you try. Because you can't do that no matter how hard you try. Because at the end of the day, almost every wrestler around, or at least all the big names were inspired by him. So it's going to be basically impossible to just kind of erase him out of the annals in pro wrestling. So you can give kudos to the man for basically bringing professional wrestling into the mainstream. At the same time, I mean, let's keep it a buck. You can also say F Terry Bollea. And you can say, you know what, the heck with the person, because although that man is not here to apologize, and we're not going to further throw stones on this man. At the same time, he had 10 years to apologize, and he never did. He never did. So this is kind of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, the man basically created the pulp culture, helped create the pulp culture phenomenon that is professional wrestling. But at the same time, the character did, but the man also, I mean, let's keep it a buck. The man outside of the ring did not like us.
No.
Did not like us. Did not like us at all. I'm talking I'm talking about the crazy thing about his death. It's 10 years. Yesterday was 10 years to the day of that rant where he was talking about his daughter dating a black guy. And I'm not going to repeat anything. Google it, look it up. I'm saying, like, the first time I saw that and I read that, immediately every single ounce of respect I had for that man as a human being went out the window. It went out the window because WrestleMania 1, the first main event of WrestleMania history, was you and Mr. T versus Paul Orndorff and Rowdy Roddy Piper. You tag team with one of us.
Don't forget Jimmy Snooker.
Exactly,
Jimmy Snooker
exactly.
was in his
So
corner.
it's so
Muhammad
it's
Ali was special guest referee.
exactly. So it's not like a lot of your biggest moments ever did not involve at least one of us. I mean, one of the greatest spectacles in WrestleMania history was WrestleMania 18. Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, half Samoan, half black. Rock's father being the late great Hall of Famer Rocky Johnson.
Johnson.
So it's one of those things where it is a touchy subject, but at the same time, don't feel like we're not okay. This is how I feel about the situation. The ones that are going to show condolences and give the man his flowers and give him kudos for everything he's done, that hey, you don't want to shame them. But on the other hand, the people that remember what he left these last 10 years of his life, as far as him as a human being, you can't shame them either. There is boundaries. There's still respect that needs to be shown for what he did for the sport. But there's also a realization. There's also a realization that has to set in when it comes to talking about Terry Bollea, the man. He was not a good human being. But we do not wish death on anyone. We don't wish bad on anyone because at the end of the day, karma has a funny way of walking around at your front door if you're not careful. And karma never misses. Karma,
Goes
karma
around,
bats
comes
a
around.
thousand. Karma, exactly. Karma bats 1,000. So, so here's say hi. Hi.
Oh,
Yes, go shut my door. Yes, go shut my door. I love that child. Anyways,
It's all
all right.
good.
So, oh no, yeah, I know. So, but yeah, like, yeah, just like I was saying, you have to come to a realization about what he did for the business, but also what he did as a human being. Yeah, yeah. Karma bats 1,000. Karma don't miss. Karma, karma, karma's Barry Bonds when it comes to life. It don't miss. It ain't gonna
Hmm.
miss. Hitting home runs every time it comes to the plate. So you have to think about that before you say certain things. We being who we are in this business, in this profession, we are allowed, we have the privilege of doing this. We are allowed to have the right to be able to exercise how we feel, but we must do it in a way that's not distasteful,
and
but
responsible.
also shed light and exactly, but also be responsible, shed light on things, educate, teach, be responsible for those. We're kind of like CM Punk. He calls himself the voice of the voiceless. In a way, we're kind of like that. We speak for those who might not have the opportunity to speak like this. So we, in a sense, have a duty to tell people and to educate and to show them, like, hey, don't feel bad about reminding people what that man has done for this business. Don't feel bad for reminding everybody the person out the ring could care less about you. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we lost. He is an icon to the sport. We send prayers and condolences to his family. The one I really thought about after Hope died was Brooke. She was the one I thought about the most
His
because they
daughter.
had an estranged his daughter, yes, because they were estranged. They weren't talking like after 2023 was the last time she spoke to him. But what really kind of hit me in the feels a little bit, she said, and I quote, I well not quote, but basically verbatim, that she was fortunate enough to be able to tell him that she loved him the last time they spoke. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. The fact that he knew his daughter still had love for him, still loved him. That's what it's about. That's what this world revolves around, should revolve around at the end of the day. Is how we speak to each other and how we treat each other and how we love each other. So we always got to remember that. So we definitely send prayers and condolences to Hulk Hogan's family. We have to do that. We send prayers and condolences to his peers, his friends, everyone that grew up around him in the business, that hung out with him in and out of the business, that saw this man close up and develop bonds, develop relationships. It's crazy. Kevin Nash is the last OG member of the big three of the NWO. Kevin Nash is it when it comes to
Yeah.
the NWO. Scott Hall's gone. Hulk Hogan is now gone. Kevin Nash is left. And I want to say this to bring a little light to the stage. To any wrestlers out there, any of the pro wrestlers out there, whether in AEW, WWE, TNA, it don't matter. If you're just by the sheer luck watching the Sports PSP podcast and listen to what I have to say, as a man who is an avid Scott Hall fan, who thought Scott Hall was one of the most underrated, underappreciated dudes of our generation. Somebody, please, for me, on a mainstream big time stage, walk out the Ready or Not by the Fugees. Do it one time for me. Please do it one time for me. Walk out the Ready or Not by the Fugees. Do it one time for me. I want to see somebody use that on a big time mainstream stage one time, just to pay homage and respect to that brother, because Scott Hall is like one of those, like, I just have ample amounts of love and respect for, and everything that he went through, and in the way that he went out, that Scott Hall is one of those that kind of hurt me. So if y'all hear me, please, somebody, Ready or Not by the Fugees, do it for me one time, and do it for me one time in the interest. Just show your brother some love. Remember, BRL Sports told you this. Do it for me, please. Now that I got that out the way, condolences to his family and friends, because at the end of the day, Hulk Hogan is one of the ultimate staples of that sport. And we have to acknowledge that. We just have to acknowledge that it is. I mean, sometimes what you do as a human being can sometimes outweigh what you did for your sport and for your craft. And Hulk Hogan is one of those. He's at that. He's really at that. So it's mainly just about acknowledging, educating, teaching, and we move forward that way. Hopefully, a lot of people that are in his profession don't make a lot of the same mistakes he did outside of the ring. But with that being said, R.I.P. to Hulk Hogan. He is one of the icons of this sport, and we send prayers and condolences to his family. We're not going to disrespect you in any way, shape, or form. We have no reason to kick you down. We have no reason to knock you down. But we also must acknowledge the factual information that is out there. And we just have to remember that. And just always remember to love each other and educate each other and understand mistakes and what we can do to learn from mistakes, and how we can, and what we can do to continue to grow as a country. Because until we are fully having these discussions and these conversations with not just among us, but among other ethnicities and nationalities and races of people, until we're doing this on a regular basis and people are actually truly listening and not letting it go out in one ear and out the other, we are never going to fully continue to grow as a country. So just a little bit of food of thought, and hopefully y'all can let that marinate a little bit.
Dwayne Coleman, shout out to our guy. He's checking out the Sports PSP pod. He said it right here. It's the same thing I said. I still listen to R. Kelly's music. People want to ask me, oh, why you still listening to his music, but you could separate the artist from the person. Yes, I completely agree, Dwayne, because I spoke about that with R. Kelly. I did the video. Can we compartmentalize? Two things can be true. You can condemn someone for some of the terrible or horrible things that they've done, but at the same time, I'm not going to disregard nor diminish their art. Their art speaks for itself. As for Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan, yes, the human being, it's hard to like him, the human being, given his racism and given the fact that he was, and I'm sorry, a pathological liar. But I cannot take away what he has accomplished as a wrestler and how he helped catapult wrestling back in the 80s and in the 90s. And you cannot tell the story of wrestling without Hulk Hogan. You do that, you're doing a major disservice for us and generations, and for people who know and study wrestling. So, look, that's all we're going to leave it on. But before we move on to the next subject, let's just have a quick moment of silence real quick. Thank you.